Hi everybody, my name is Crystal and today we're going to meet the Noodles. Okay, so I appreciate you tuning in. I don't think anybody really cares to meet my Noodles. Maybe that's just an insecure noodle that's talking, but I am working right now. I'm supposed to be working here at home and the phones are kind of slow, so if we get interrupted, you'll know why I had to pause or edit the video, and I'll be right back, okay? But basically, yeah, these are my Noodles. I have done a lot of soul searching to figure out what is going on with me. The three people in my life that I think would be interested in this would be my therapist, number one, my husband might be interested, number two, and my aunt. She's taken an interest in discovering more about my Noodles and what that's all about and everything. And so I think she'd be interested as well. Other than that, anybody else that's watching, this is really just, I guess, for your fun. So I'm not just doing this for me. This is really just for me. I had to get this out. I had to do this video. Yeah, so we're just doing this a little differently. You're not going to see my face. I hope that I won't do any switching. I'm really just coming at this as a factual perspective, not so much of an emotional one. I really just want to get this out as quickly as possible. So hopefully this goes quick. All right, so I have been playing around with different colors to represent each of my different Noodles. And when I say different Noodles, you might think the word alters. I have been associating trauma with coping skills. So I've got all my trauma to the right. I've got all my coping skills to the left. And I guess it's not really so black and white like that. It's not so cut and dry. And you'll probably understand more as I get going. But there seems to be this noodle right here, this lilac color noodle. She is Claire. I call her Claire because she's clairvoyant. Claire is 3 years old and she holds the terrifying memory of screaming and yelling and people being upset. And as a 3-year-old, you can imagine a little 3-year-old going into the corner or hiding under a table or in a closet, covering their ears, just hoping that it will all go away. Now, as little Claire holds that trauma, notice how I'm not emotional, I'm just factual right now. This is not triggering for me right now, which is great. But Claire has developed some sort of clairvoyant capabilities, and she can communicate to these Noodles here. That's why she's kind of sitting next to them. So I'm trying to visualize how she interacts with the system. So Claire's not necessarily a host. She's more or less a protector. She's trying to protect these guys the best she can. These ones are a little bit more rebellious with this other stuff, okay? If that's the best way to say it. All right, so we got Claire. I'm going to write Claire on here. We're going to just C-L-A-I-R-E. Hello, everybody. Meet Claire. She is 3 years old. Okay? Now, Claire will possibly tell Alpha Beta Queen. It was a name I was given when I was 5 years old. And I give Alpha Beta Queen the gold color because she got the gold star in kindergarten. She was the kid that did everything correctly. She was very good at, you know, obeying and listening and doing a good job. I was a latchkey kid. I had a lot of adults relying on me, and I felt responsible. I felt really responsible, and I relished in that responsibility. So Alpha Beta Queen, if you think of her in the passenger seat, when you look at a car, if everybody over here is driving the car and she's in the passenger seat, she's like a navigator. So she will say stuff like, oops, I'm getting a call, 1 second. She will say stuff like, all right, we're going to do this the right way because we hold the memory of being obedient and being a good girl and being, you know, all that. So she will communicate to Yellow over here. So she'll tell Yellow what the driving force is. You know, oh, this is the direction we're going to go in because we're good girls. We're a good kid. We're a good girl. We're a good noodle, right? And so this is Yellow. You guys have met Yellow before. Yellow is bubbly and happy and able to just communicate well. She has a very positive disposition. And because these two are the most positive of the whole system, they are the most protected and completely shielded from all these noodles underneath. They don't really have any memory or recollection of what's going on when they're fronting. When they're fronting, everything's fine and they don't really have any traumas. They don't even remember anything. So a lot of times throughout my life, I've been Yellow, alphabetic queen, intersected, you know, that's just who I am, with this hint of Claire predicting what other people wanted from us and predicting what we need to do to stay safe. Okay? So then we've got Easter here. Easter, she's 11 years old and she holds an abandonment trauma. I think I am getting things mixed up a bit. I don't remember which side's trauma and which side's coping, so I apologize if I misspoke. Okay, so Easter holds an abandonment trauma, and she's also in a passenger seat. So when Pinky is fronting, it's typically because Easter's in the passenger seat telling her where to go, navigating her, telling her what to do. Because she holds that trauma, Pinky is the coping, the result of that. And Pinky is 16 years old. And Pinky can be fun and bubbly and crazy and silly and all that stuff, and singing and dancing and creative, and also very promiscuous too. She thinks, you know, that's the way she can get boys to like her. That's kind of where that age comes from, because I remember thinking that at 16 years old, that's how you get boys to like you. You give boys what they want. That's what love is. So that's probably TMI, but that's basically what those two noodles are about. Then you've got Little Crystal. Little Crystal is my 7-year-old. I hope you guys can see this okay. It doesn't really look like it's very close, huh? Is that better? There we go. All right, so Little Crystal, age 7, she's the toughest one for me to get to, honestly. She's the loudest one that was able to, the first one I was able to hear clearly as someone that wasn't me. And of course, when I say hear, it's not an audible hear like schizophrenia hears people. I seriously heard another thought that was not my thought, if that makes sense. So she affects Tina. And Tina is 13 years old. And Little Crystal holds the trauma of being betrayed and unable to speak her truth. So people lie to her and she doesn't feel like she can be honest with others. She's just, that's just the way the world works. People lie to you and I guess you lie to other people. So you got to keep everything shut. Shut off. So that's her trauma, and it's really difficult to tap into her when she shows up. And the way she shows up, the way she navigates the system, is by allowing Tina to drive, and Tina's coping mechanism is lashing out, screaming, yelling, you know, just rebelling, just being very, you know, in your face, teenager like. And she's just unruly. She's a very unruly teenager. All right, so then we've got this one here. This is Meredy. Meredy is also 7. So you can imagine the two little girls from The Shining standing in the hallway holding hands. They're like twins, but completely different from each other. Meredy is a little bit of a narcissist, and she's got this, oops, sorry. So Meredy holds the trauma of manipulation. And she's a narcissist by default, whether it be because our mother was a narcissist, our father was a narcissist, or that was just the behavior that we grew up around. So guilt trips and, you know, gaslighting and demands and all that stuff, that's definitely something that's learned. So I completely just messed everything up. Let me just correct this here. Okay, so Meredy is not 7 years old. I got her mixed up with this one. Meredy is 14 years old, and Meredy's trauma is that she's been manipulated, and she learned manipulation tactics from people who were really, you know, having their own mental health issues. So when she was struggling with all the other stuff from childhood, this is a coping tactic in a way. And she would develop these fantasies of the way that she thinks that the world works, and the way that people are supposed to show up for her, and the way that people are supposed to follow through, and the way that people are supposed to do what they're supposed to do. And so because this is kind of a coping and a trauma in one, she's often grabbing the steering wheel from this one here. And this one here is Jeannie. Now, Jeannie is 7 years old. So like this 7-year-old, these two are like twins. If you think of The Shining from the, you know, Nicholas movie, what's his name? You think of The Shining, where you have the twins standing in the hallway and they're holding hands, but they're completely different from each other, as in the fact that little Crystal is holding trauma and upset, where Jeannie is very codependent. She's constantly battling this one. The codependents and narcissists are very much alike in their tactics. They kind of swap back and forth, but one's more people-pleasing, the other one's more manipulative, if that makes any sense. Okay, so we've got little Crystal, 7, and she affects Tina. Meredy, 14, and she affects Jeannie, who is 7. And if I've not made this video too long, I'll probably cut out a bunch so that it's shorter, so I'm sorry for all the scribblies and back and forths and all that stuff. All right, as you can tell, this one here is a black noodle. Black noodle is kind of like a coach. I didn't see it that way for the longest time. Black noodle used to come around during those suicidal ideation times, or the times when I'd lock myself in the bathroom floor bawling my eyes out with the pair of scissors to my wrists. Like, it's pretty intense, and that's why it's so long and so thick of a noodle. And this black noodle was very much needed in my life, kind of like a really tough coach that you had in your life that just never got off your back and was always pushing you to try harder. I appreciate the black noodle now, because without the black noodle, I would not have this discovery of my system. I kept digging and digging and digging until I found the root of my issues. My mental health issues stem from childhood trauma and very immature childlike responses. 16-year-old, 13-year-old, 7-year-old, there's just very much needed the black noodle, and I appreciate him now. And when he's in the navigator seat, I've got little boy blue. And little boy blue is tough. He can take it. He can handle it. He's going to resist. So he's resisting what black noodle's telling him, kind of like a little, you know, a little boy in the football team who's trying to beef up and become tougher for the system. So he, you know, Little Boy Blue takes the brunt of everything. And then over here we've got Genius. Genius is who I am, I guess you could say. I feel like right now I'm the bowl. I'm Crystal, and I'm looking at everything as a whole. So Crystal is, I'm kind of like an empty vessel, analyzing myself as I dig in. But I guess if you want to say anybody's fronting, it's Genius, because she makes sure that we get stuff done, and she's very organized and very methodical, and this is a very methodical way of describing our system. So Genius came about, I would say, in when I was 33 years old, and that was out of pure desperation from trying to understand my own mental health. And she's really just flourished and gotten better and better ever since that year. So I don't necessarily say she's 33 years old, because I feel like all of these are me and all of them have grown with me. But I like to recognize where this trauma comes from and where these strengths come from. And she may not be a consciousness per se, or a trauma. She's more just a consciousness, or a coping, or a doer. So she's strong and she's thick, and that's why she's, yeah, I'm not sure if I'm explaining correctly. Got another call, one sec. I feel like I'm getting rambly, so I bet you I'm going to cut a lot of this out. Okay, so Genius doesn't necessarily affect this one. They can kind of affect each other, actually. It kind of goes back and forth. This one is Mr. Purple, and Mr. Purple, I learned how to be Mr. Purple at 4 years old. It was a technique that my mom taught me, which is how to avoid everything. So there's Mr. Purple's like the one that will be distracting and just be zoning out, you know, allow me to zone out. When I'm in a funk, when I've got something else going on up here, Mr. Purple will distract me with something else going on, just to try to calm me down. A very grounding, protecting sort of noodle that was just very helpful. And Genius is the worker that makes sure we get the done. So between the two, between distracting and getting work done, that's pretty much how we function day to day without showing emotion. So these don't show emotion. They're very emotionless. All right, now these two are pretty powerful, probably the most strongest and I don't know, strong-willed, strong, yeah. This one is Wendy. Wendy is 10 years old, and she was told that she's weird. She was told that she wasn't good enough, insufficient, nobody's gonna like her, nobody does like her, not good enough, all that stuff. That's a pretty strong noodle that represents this bowl of crystal, this bowl of who I am. And this just makes her feel a lot of crummy things. So when she's in the passenger seat, when she's navigating and she's not confident Genius or Alpha Beta Queen, you know, when she's not fronting and everybody else is doing their thing, she's completely gone. But when she's fronting, she has a big, powerful influence over a lot of other noodles, and they kind of start trickling, and it starts to like collapse into itself, you know, and it becomes a big mess of noodles. So if it doesn't trickle into all these other things, it usually just shows up as red, and red is a force to be reckoned with. Okay, red is, the way she shows up is just angry and bossy and controlling. So I don't know why I'm putting descriptions all of a sudden here. Basically, anybody that knows me, anybody that knows who I am, that's probably what they see the most of, is this one showing up. And anybody that tries to get to the root of who I am might hear comments that Wendy would share. So I do feel like they kind of go hand in hand, these things. So basically, this is the bowl of noodles, and I know this is kind of a crude way of explaining and introducing my noodles, considering I'm still trying to figure things out. They're not fronting every moment of every day. They don't come out just because I talk about them. I can tap into pretty much any of them because I've gotten to know at least that much so far. So I am kind of proud of my progress, knowing that things can affect each other and how they show up. That is actually quite unique, I think. I don't remember what I was saying before I got interrupted with that phone call. Basically, I'm pretty proud of everything that I have been able to tap into and understand. I really hope that there's no other noodles because frankly, I'm just exhausted and I don't want to discover anymore. I really do hold trauma in a lot of my early years, and then it shows up in my older years of what that early trauma did to me. So it's not a molestation. Unfortunately, it's not as severe as what other people have experienced with their own d.i.d. and OSDD. So I often feel invalid for my OSDD trauma. It has taken me forever to get through this because of all the phone calls. There hasn't been that many, but anyways, I don't remember what I was saying. Something about Wendy. I don't remember anymore. I said something, and I'm sure it was good because it felt good at the time. What was I saying? I don't know. Anyways, I know that a lot of my noodles are all over the place, and my OSDD does not show up the same way as other people's, probably because I'm very co-conscious a lot of times of what's going on, and I sometimes have control over which ones front, and sometimes I can put the other ones away. But when I don't front correctly, then I have a hard time. Does that make sense? Let me try that again. Okay, so I think I understand. I think I remember what I was trying to say. My OSDD shows up differently than a lot of d.i.d. does. And I think the reason why my OSDD shows up differently is because a lot of times I am co-conscious. I'm aware of what the feelings are coming up, and I purposely can force one noodle to stay in charge. I purposely force one noodle to protect everything else going on underneath. And trying to sort out things and trying to shush the other ones up, I have a really hard time controlling it all sometimes. So it looks like emotional dysregulation. It looks like borderline personality disorder. It looks like a lot of things that are not really accurate with what's going on with me. I find that the OSDD and separating everything out into alters or noodles or whatever you call them, and identifying where each of those noodles come from, where their trauma lies, where their coping skills came from, how old were they when they learned their coping skills. And I am not just one of these noodles most of the time. Sometimes I am. Sometimes I am nothing but one noodle. And sometimes I purposely do that. Sometimes I ignore everybody else for just a second and I'm the only one that's driving. But most of us are always in the car, and there's usually just one person driving and one person navigating, and everyone else is in the background, and I can hear everybody. Or I can't. It's not so I can ignore them. It's really not really easy to explain. It's kind of just the way mine is. Mine is a very free-flowing bowl of noodles, or tossed salad, as I've said before. Sometimes you see a tomato, sometimes you see a lettuce, sometimes you see a cucumber, sometimes you see a crouton, and it's really showing up for me in such a validating way what my life has been like, and now I have an explanation for it. So I really love being able to visualize it and explain it and dissect it and understand it And I think my therapist, my husband, and my aunt would be super proud. That's going to be her name from now on. Aunt, whatever her name is. All right, I think this has been long enough. I thought it was going to be quick, but you know me, I'm a rambler. So I guess me and my noodles will talk to you later. Bye-bye.